What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to go over the complete history of the Ford Fusion, which had two generations and ran from 2006 to 2020. The Ford Fusion debuted in 2005 for the 2006 model year as a four-door sedan that filled the gap between the smaller Ford Focus and the slightly larger Ford Taurus. The Ford Fusion was produced as a gasoline vehicle as well as a standard and plug-in hybrid, but for the sake of simplicity, we will only go over the gasoline models. Over the course of the Fusion's 15-year run, 2.7 million were sold, with 2014 having the highest number of sales. Competing with the Fusion were other large sedans like the widely popular Honda Accord and Toyota Camry. The first generation of the Fusion had four engine options, two 4-cylinders and two 6-cylinders. The second generation also had four engines to choose from, three of which were 4-cylinder and one EcoBoost V6. When the Fusion came out in 2006, its base engine was a 2.3-liter inline-4, which came standard on every trim of the Fusion. It put out 160 horsepower and 156 pound-feet of torque through either a 5-speed auto or a 5-speed manual transmission. This model was also fairly efficient, getting 23 miles per gallon city and 31 highway. The original 2.3-liter inline-4 engine was discontinued after the 2009 model year in favor of a larger and more powerful 2.5-liter one. This engine made 175 horsepower and 172 pound-feet of torque through a new 6-speed manual or automatic transmission. With 22 miles per gallon city and 30 miles per gallon on the highway, this new engine was slightly less efficient than its predecessor, but it was definitely worth the increase in power. Like before, this engine was standard on all three trims. Along with the new 4-cylinder engine, the 2010 model year also came with a facelift, which largely improved the exterior appearance of the Fusion. For the first 7 years of the Fusion, Ford offered a 3-liter naturally aspirated V6 as an optional upgrade on the SE and SEL trims. This engine put out 221 horsepower before an upgrade in 2010, which gave it a bump in power to 240 horsepower. The Ford Fusion did not come with a manual transmission on their V6 model, with only a 6-speed auto being available. In terms of efficiency, with 20 miles per gallon in the city and 28 on the highway, the Fusion was relatively fuel efficient for a V6-powered family sedan. For the 2010 facelift, Ford also introduced the Sport trim to the Fusion lineup, which introduced an award-winning 3.5-liter naturally aspirated V6 engine, which was the same motor used in the Ford Police Interceptor and the Ford Explorer until 2019. This very capable engine put out 263 horsepower and 249 pound-feet of torque through a 6-speed automatic transmission that was able to hit 60 miles per hour in 6.5 seconds. The fuel economy was alright for the amount of power received, with 18 city and 27 highway, with slightly less if it came with the all-wheel drive option. The second generation was introduced in 2012 for the 2013 model year. Along with a much more stylish design, the second generation also brought with it 3 new engine options under the new EcoBoost name, signifying that the engine is turbocharged. Before getting into the new EcoBoost engines, one engine did carry over from the first generation, and that was the 2.5-liter inline-4 engine, which served as the base engine on the S trim of the Fusion until the model was discontinued in 2020. It put out nearly identical power as it did in the first generation, with 175 horsepower and 175 pound-feet of torque. But in this generation only came with a 6-speed automatic transmission. It did, though, become slightly more efficient with 22 miles per gallon city and 34 on the highway. Out of all the engines put in the Fusion, the 2.5-liter inline-4 has proven itself to be the most reliable, making it the best option for those in the market for a used Fusion. The smallest of the new engines was a 1.5-liter turbo inline-4. The 2013 model year did have a 1.6-liter, but it was quickly swapped out for the 1.5 for every year after. The engine was an option on the SE and SEL models until 2019, when it replaced the 2.5-liter inline-4 engine as standard on the SE and SEL trims. It was not a very exciting engine, especially for being a turbo, with only 181 horsepower and 185 pound-feet of torque. It was the most efficient of all non-hybrid Fusions, though, with 23 miles per gallon in the city and 36 mpg highway. The larger of the two EcoBoost four-cylinder engines was the 2-liter turbo, which for the entire second generation was exclusive to the titanium trim, which was the most luxurious trim offered aside from the platinum trim, which was available between 2017 and 2019, which was just a slightly fancier version of the titanium, with the same engine and same transmission. These fancier trims came with optional all-wheel drive, leather-wrapped and power-adjustable seats, a leather-wrapped steering wheel, and either 18 or 19-inch aluminum rims. The 2.0 inline-4 put out an impressive 240 horsepower and 270 pound-feet of torque, far better numbers than the other two four-cylinder engine options. Even with the larger increase of power, though, the 2-liter was still able to maintain good efficiency with 22 miles per gallon city and 32 mpg highway. Finally, we get to the only V6 offered in the second generation, which was a 2.7-liter twin-turbo V6 engine that put out 325 horsepower and 380 pound-feet of torque, more horsepower than a 2010 V8 Ford Mustang. The same engine was used in multiple other cars in the Ford lineup, including the Ford F-150 and even the new Ford Bronco. Buyers had access to all this power with the sport trim of the Ford Fusion, which unfortunately only ran from 2017 to 2019. The sport trim came standard with all-wheel drive, a quad-tip dual exhaust, and 19-inch dark painted rims. This machine can hit 60 miles per hour in 5.1 seconds, which was about as quick as a brand new Dodge Charger RT. The added power did come with a cost though, with fuel efficiency taking a sizable hit down to 17 in the city and 26 on the highway, but in my opinion, it was totally worth it. So what happened to the Ford Fusion? In 2018, the Ford Motor Company announced that they would begin to discontinue all of their sedans to focus on trucks, SUVs, and crossovers, which is where the demand for automobiles has been shifting in recent years. This was no fiesta for sedan buyers, as though many saw the Fusion as one of the best sedans Ford ever produced. It was unable to escape from this policy, reaching its final model year in 2020. Despite its sad demise, the desire for the Fusion is still very alive, as many people are still looking for a reliable, efficient sedan that is fun to drive, but also has enough room to haul cargo or even a family. Well guys, that's going to be it for us today. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe.